Hello, and welcome back to Nathan Bell's podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Today, Nate would like to talk about Valerie.
Right, today I'm going to talk about the radical feminist activist Valerie Solanas. And the reason I want to talk about her is because she's a big inspiration in a lot of the action that I take. When I was in my 20s, I watched the autobiographical movie I Shot Andy Warhol, which is all about how Valerie shot Andy Warhol. She attempted to murder artist Andy Warhol. She shot him 3 times. Now, that's not very nice. Apparently, she believed that Andy Warhol was conspiring to seize control of her creative works. And there's a lot of question around whether Andy Warhol had some contract with her which gave him rights to her creative works, whether he screwed her over in a business deal. She was in theatre, she wanted to produce plays and movies and stuff. And there's some question around whether there was a sour business deal which led her to shoot Andy Warhol. Based on what she said to judges when being tried on the matter, she clearly felt she was in the right. She ended up being diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and spent a lot of her life after that in a psychiatric ward. I wonder whether Andy Warhol had screwed her over and had taken advantage of her in some foul business deal. There's a lot of question around whether that's what actually happened. I think, knowing psychiatrists, you can tell them that you've been screwed over and taken advantage of by people, and they won't contact the police and they won't involve the police. They'll just label you paranoid schizophrenic. That's what they do. They don't get the police involved when people say they're victims of crime. So maybe she was right, and maybe there was this conspiracy to steal her works from her and to take advantage of her, but that doesn't mean that she should shoot Andy Warhol. But what I want to say about Valerie is she's a big inspiration to me, not for shooting Andy Warhol. I'm not so on that. I'm not into shooting people, so that's not why she's an inspiration to me. She's an inspiration to me because in the movie she is depicted as writing this manifesto, which is a very super feminist manifesto. The manifesto would call for me to be killed, basically because I'm a man, so I can't say that I identify with the manifesto because it was anti-men and she was very anti-men, and I'm a man. But what she did, she wrote her manifesto and then she distributed it, and I believe she distributed it for free, and that's what she does in the movie. You see her in the street handing out her manifesto to all these people in the street, trying to get her message and her ideas out there, and in my mind that's democracy. Now, I wrote the Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto, which is my vision for the future of humanity in Australia, and I distributed 800 to 1,000 copies of the Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto. Now that was about raising awareness and provoking thought. And Valerie Solanas said on a number of occasions that what she was doing was about raising awareness and provoking thought with the Scum Manifesto. So I was directly inspired by Valerie Solanas to write my manifesto, then to distribute my manifesto. Because when I saw that movie, I said to myself, one day I am going to write out my vision for the world in the form of a manifesto like this woman did, and I am going to distribute it to people to get my vision for the world out there. Now, it took many years after that for me to come to write the Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto, but I did it, and then I distributed it. So I want to thank Valerie Solanas, radical feminist activist, for being the inspiration behind that action. She showed the world that an individual can come up with a worldview and a considered way that they think the world should be, then they can write it out, then they can not only write it out for themselves, but they can take it out there and they can self-publish it, and they can manufacture it, and they can distribute it out into the community to get their ideas out there. And that is democracy. In my mind, every Australian should write their own manifesto. Tell Australians how you think the world should run and how you think Australia should run. Every Australian should write their own worldview and their own view of how politics should run out, and they should distribute their manifestos into the community and share it around. That is the exchange of ideas, that is the exchange of knowledge and the debate and the arguments and the discussion that makes democracy work. So Valerie said she wanted to start discussions. Well, that's what she did, right? And that's why she has a Wikipedia page and she's gone down in history. And that's what I wanted to do with the Australian Liberal Anarchy Party manifesto. I wanted to start discussions and start debate, right? So that's how Valerie Solanas has inspired me. It's interesting, if you look into Valerie Solanas, people question whether her manifesto was a parody or a comical work. She called for the abolition of men, and I believe she says in the movie that one day women will be able to reproduce without men, so we can get rid of men entirely. And she also believed in fully automating society, so she wasn't a dumb woman, especially to be talking about full automation in that era. A lot of people talked about full automation going back through the last century, but it's always been on the cusp of tech talk is full automation. So Valerie was all for full automation, and I support that. I'm for full automation as well, and the world will be a better place when everything is fully automated and we don't have to work, and we can live in the leisure society, and I've said that before. But Valerie seemed to think that women could reproduce without men, and that we could get rid of men altogether, and that leans towards whether it was a comical work or whether she was serious. She said on numerous occasions that she was dead serious in everything she said in the manifesto. But I just wanted to say that's one of my inspirations. Valerie is one of my inspirations for writing a manifesto, for presenting her views to the world, and for promoting and putting her views out there into the world by distributing her manifesto to people. That's democracy, and that's how it should work. We should all have manifestos, and we should all distribute our views and have discussion about how society should run. So that's how Valerie Solanas' life has influenced me and my actions. So drop a comment in the comment section if you know about Valerie and what your thoughts are about Valerie.